What would be a boundary for if my needs aren't being met? I saw this comment or some comments like this on my last video in the 20s to 30s of times. So I really want to take my time and answer this with the nuance and gentleness that it deserves, because it's a hard answer. So I want to reiterate a point from my other video and sort of use this as the foundation for this conversation, right? That boundaries themselves are not designed to coerce behavior from other people. Our boundaries, their primary purpose is not to get other people to do or not do things. Our boundaries are supposed to govern what is and isn't allowed to happen to us, and what we will do in the event that these things do happen. One of the most Googled search terms whenever I see the autofill function on it is how to get my wife to, how to get my husband to, how to get my boyfriend, how to get my girlfriend to. And the simple reality is that we are not here to get other people to do anything. And in fact, we can't. So the first thing I would want to consider here is what type of relationship, right? The boundaries that I would put in place if my needs weren't being met by a family member, by my mother, by a partner, by a friend, by a coworker would obviously be really different depending on the situation. And so where most of my boundaries would boil down is if my needs are not effectively met in this situation, then the thing that I have control over is the amount that I invest. For example, I've had to set a boundary with a friend before saying, I love you, I care about you, I am not able to lend you money and invest in this way in our friendship because of the way that it feels unbalanced for me, because of the way that I feel treated. I'm not able to do that and feel good about myself. And from that point, our friendship was able to feel a lot safer, a lot closer, honestly, once I wasn't investing in that level that felt really unbalanced and unjust for me. I think a lot of the time too, when we're having fundamental misalignments of needs and values in relationships, the boundary can be at times, I'm not able to continue this relationship if I'm not able to feel the level of emotional security and safety, the sexual security and safety, the financial security and safety that I need here. And again, the important piece of this, right? The distinction between a boundary and an ultimatum is that you are controlling your own behavior, right? Potentially even experiencing a loss in order to retain and protect the dignity and self-love that you require, right? To uphold the standard of your quality of life, of your mental health and wellness, of your general wellness and relationality with this person, right? It's the distance at which I can love myself and another person at the same time. An ultimatum is designed to put enough social, emotional, or financial pressure on someone that they do the thing that we want them to do. And they are not the same thing. Those are not the same things. One is about control, one is about respect. The other thing that I want to state here, though, is I think that there is this instinct, which I completely understand, to grab onto words like boundaries, to grab onto therapy speak, because we're afraid of the fact that we just have requests of other people, that we have demands and expectations of the people that we draw near. I really want to work to destigmatize this. I want to, frankly, just say we do owe each other shit. We do owe each other things, and we should be allowed to ask, especially the people that we hold closest to us, our partners, our close friends, our loved ones. We should be able to ask them for the things that we need to feel seen, heard, safe, and valued. And we should expect, in the most abundant and healthy relationship dynamics, that they would be exciting, willing, and generous in their efforts to meet that, particularly if it's doing things that really don't cost them very much. I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea of caring for other people and not being cared enough for themselves, that they don't even stop and think whether what they're being asked to do is even very difficult, if it is even costly to them. And this is where we get into emotional withholding and stockpiling, et cetera, which is always really bad and devastating. So the other point that I want to make here on that note is this could be an opportunity where your relationship needs some really clear requests. Hi, my needs aren't being met by you in this relationship, and I love you. These are the most important needs to me. I have some ideas on how we could work together to meet them better. Would you be open to talking about that? Would you be open to putting together a plan to meet these needs for me over time in a way that allows me to see progress? Because right now I'm not seeing the progress that I need to feel like this relationship has a future, that I will be safe and supported and fulfilled in, right? I think that's a very reasonable conversation to have. What is it going to look like, right? What is this process of aligning our needs so that mine feel met to? What's it going to look like? How am I going to know it's happening? When should I expect some of these things to happen? Whether it's your partner or your friend getting into therapy, whether it's them, doing some reading and doing some personal work or on communication, whatever the case may be, right? But how am I going to know that you're doing this? How am I going to be able to see, touch, feel it? And how long should I be expected to hold space for you in this process of development, right? Because a lot of the time, something we forget in relationships is that when we are learning, which we're all learning, oftentimes we are learning the lessons at the expense of the people closest to us, right? I had to hurt and alienate a lot of people to become a good listener, right? And so they pay the price for my Hardway University tuition, if that makes sense. And so I think it's reasonable to ask people for a timeline of like, okay, you're making a concerted effort. You're going to be in therapy. You're going to be trying this out. You're going to be, reading up on this. You're going to be doing some behavior adjustments and becoming more mindful and whatever the case may be, right? Whatever you find the strategy and solution to be for your relationship, how long should I expect that to be? And can I hold you to that? Can I hold you to the commitment that you're making about meeting my needs because they matter to you? And I know I'm going to get a ton of people in my comments of this video being like, being in a relationship with you must be so fun. This sounds terrible. Yeah, it sounds clunky and counterintuitive because it is. And we're looking at a kinship crisis and a just devastating standard of models for relationships that are showing themselves in our schmuicide rates, our loneliness rates, our divorce rates, our cheating. What we have right now in this concept of intuitive relation and intuitive love and naturalized order in terms of how we're supposed to love, care, and belong to each other isn't working and hasn't been effective. What the science says, what the neurobiological attachment science says, right? What the neurochemical science says in terms of our amygdalas, in terms of how our nervous system respond to relationship dynamics, in terms of the benefits of relationships, right? Being able to heal our immune systems, all of these things is that we need systems of governance, we need ongoing communication, and we need a sense of accountability in our relationships on an ongoing basis. That this sort of random, ad hoc partner pairing doesn't work for us. And so I think that's why it's important that we know the distinction of what we're talking about. Do we need a boundary for this situation? Or do we need a conversation about expectations? Do we need a boundary for this situation? Or do we need to make frank requests bravely and vulnerably of the people that say that they love us, right? Or do we need to be meeting more the requests of the people that we say we love? Is it that this situation requires a boundary, a negotiation? Is it that this situation requires a compromise and an ongoing process of checking in? Is it possible that this relationship, the structure of it itself, needs to change and reconfigure in a way that allows both people to love, respect, and enjoy each other to the fullest extent? I think these are the types of nuanced conversations we need to be having in our relationships, around relationships in general, and about relationships.